Hi, welcome to week 13 of your Ag Science 305 course. Now in this week we are finishing up what's called the Market and Breeding Livestock SAE project. It's really taken two different sets of weeks to work through this. What you're doing basically is taking the work from last week where we set up the market projects where you began with items, and then you also had a breeding SAE project, again where you began with items, and we started that breeding SAE project. In this week, what we're going to do is finish that breeding SAE project, and we're also going to talk about how a new market project is going to be developed. Also in this week, in our breeding project, we had one unweaned animal from last week that was a heifer. The idea is that students sometimes will have a breeding SAE and it will create offspring. Those offspring could be sold, but they're not sold. In this case, they're retained. And so what we want to do is talk about how a brand new SAE project is actually created. So a breeding project, the product of a breeding SAE is offspring. That's the product. Sometimes that product is not always sold. Well, if it's sold, that's easy. If it's retained, then we need to identify in the record book that that's a brand new venture. For example, in the livestock industry, when a breeding cow-calf operation, for example, when they create all these calves and they have them weaned and they sell them, then that's easy. That's the product and they sold it all. However, if they keep some of that product back, that really starts a brand new enterprise or venture. Kind of like if you were a corn producer and you raised corn and then you took the corn and you sold it, you'd be done. But if you're a corn producer and you raise the corn and then you also hold back that corn and you bag it and then maybe you try to sell it to deer for deer feeders for hunters to use, that's a brand new product. And so you need to separate that into a brand new enterprise. That way when you're analyzing your profitability of, let's say, the deer corn business, then that profit or loss is attributed to that business venture. You may even actually buy corn from other people and keep doing that because it's more profitable. The idea of raising corn is a different enterprise. Deer corn business, different enterprise, and the two exchange products together so that you can actually analyze each of them separately. Same thing with this homework. You're going to take an unweaned calf, the heifer from last week, and you're going to take that calf and you're not going to sell it. Instead, you're going to transfer it into a brand new SAE, in our case called a show heifer. And then that show heifer will get raised, and then at the end of her life, she could be sold or she could again be retained as a product into a brand new asset called a breeding cow in this case. So that's the idea of this homework. It really takes breeding and it deals with the idea that some of those products aren't sold, they're retained, and so that's called a transfer. So we're going to show you how to do that in this homework. Also, at the end of that product, sometimes the end value, the heifer, is not sold again, it's retained again. So that's another type of a transfer. So in this homework, you're going to learn all about these transfers. You're also going to learn this homework about managing a market animal, which pretty much is a start and stop. So that's what you'll have in this week. All right, so what I'm going to do in this video is not only talk about the homework and what we're focusing on for this week, but I want to go over the resources available, and then I want to pull up the actual homework, so hopefully to give you this as a resource so you can go through those details and understand each one. All right, let's take a look. All right, so content for the week, important for you to go over. There are three things I've given you here. How to use the breeding management guide. It's a document, 3 pages. Also, again, how to use the market management guide, which is 2 pages. And then there is breeding SAEs, kind of a summary of how those enterprises work. So all 3 of these are worthy to look at. First of all, we're going to talk about the breeding guide. This really basically just shows you when you go to the AET project. Remember, you've got to set up the breeding herd manager as the management module. Once you do that, you've already dealt with beginning inventory, so hopefully you've entered in those beginning cows that we started with. And then finally, when you go to the breeding herd manager, you have to add each of those cows to be part of this SAE. So this really just shows you how that works. Then once you're in there, you can record new expenses, new animal entries, new offspring, which is again what you've already done. And then so once those offspring are listed, then the very end of this talks about how you can sell them or they could die or transfer them or show used at home. So anyway, these are the options for the management module guide. The next is the market manager. The market manager is what you'll also deal with. Remember, when you set up the SAE, you have to choose the market heifer or market replacement manager, it's called now. You choose the market manager and you pull up the animals. You can do the same kind of things. You can have new expenses, new non-cash expenses. And then finally, when you get done with these animals, you can do the same thing. You can sell them or transfer them in different ways. This homework will go over that. And finally, there's a video here that you can play. This video will go over some of those details as well, especially as it relates to award applications. All right, so going back to your homework, those are the content resources for the week. Then homework 11 is here. When you pull this homework up, this is what you'll have. So this is again part 2. This is using the continuing SAEs from the last homework that you had. So this goes back to starting ag in 2014, and it kind of catches you up all the way until November of 2017. What we're looking for is to look at our records as December of 2017. So this is kind of supposed to be finishing our year. So in this SAE, or in this homework, you've got a brand new market SAE called Show Steers for 2016. Basically, it's just going to be where you're going to buy a steer, feed a steer, and sell the steers. And so that's going to be an SAE to add for this homework. You also have this idea of a show heifer. This heifer is going to be one that we did not buy. We actually used the one that we raised ourselves. You haven't done anything with her. She's still sitting in your herd, but you're going to have to create an SAE for her to go into first. So show heifer for 2016 is what she's called. That means she's going to probably start at 15, but by 16 she's going to be either sold or retained. In fact, I already told you we're going to retain her, but that's not going to happen until 16. So we call her show heifer for 2016. And then you got a breeding beef SAE already set up. So you only have to really set up these 2 brand new ones. Okay, so once again, you log into your Aggies 9 account chapter, get these 2 show steers and heifers set up. Each of them needs a plan. One thing I can give you as a tip here, the show steers for 2016, you can actually, when you create this SAE, when you go to work on the plan, you'll notice a copy. We already had set up a show steer project for 2015, I think. So what you can do is, or 14, you can just copy that plan and paste it into here. There's an automatic copy. It brings everything over into the new plan. Then what you got to do is just edit it a little bit to talk about how it reflects into this time period. All right, next is the heifer. She's a brand new plan. We have never had a heifer before, so you'll be able to write that up. So go through that, make sure you do all those sections. Then it moves you in here to deal with first the market manager for those show steers. So really you're going to go to the show steer project, go to the market manager for it, and it's going to be blank. So you're just going to choose to buy a new animal. It looks like I have 2 set up. So you gave $4,000 for one and $3,000 for the other. You can enter that in that screen. Once you hit save, then you'll be back at the manager like we've had before, and then you'll be able to enter all those expenses as we have here. You'll be able to do the non-cash expenses, and then finally you've got 2 steers, and we're going to sell both of them, and those are the entries that you make. You'll need to do an annual review on this project. That's back in the Experience Manager, and you're going to be dealing with, well, this project started in 15, it ended in 16. I want you to hit 3 things here. Make sure you hit how you got started in that year. So for example, in 2015, you would say, I started this project in blank month in hopes to make the sale. Skills that I learned in this year are blank blank, and outcomes are, at the end of this year, my steer was weighing approximately 900 pounds, and he looks like he's gaining really good as far as target for the show of March of next year, as an example. Then you're going to go through and say, in 2016, this is my second year year to raise this project, and it will last until March of this year, which I sell the steer. Skills include, and you'll add to that, and then outcomes are going to be things like, my steers brought, my grand champion steer bought $6,500. The other steer I took to the cash market, and he brought $1,800. You could put in there pounds gained per day, per pound of feed fed. You could put in there lots of outcomes. So try to focus on 1, 2, and 3 for 15 and 16. Now once you get done with that, this project is over, so you can make it inactive. All right. Next project is to deal with the heifer. Now she's like a market animal, but we didn't really buy her, we raised her. So you're going to go to the breeding herd manager and find that heifer and select her in managing offspring, and under sell info you're going to put that she's transferred, and that transfer is going to be worth $1,500, and it goes from the breeding cattle to the brand new show heifer project. Now all those offspring are gone. So then you're going to switch to the market manager under the breeding herd, and then you're going to manage the cash expenses, some non-cash expenses, excuse me, and then finally when you get done, you're going to choose transfer to capital. That means we didn't sell her, we kept her ourselves. You'll see what your cost is there, but I'm giving you a cost of $2,800. She weighs 1,250, and she's going to be retained as a breeding animal. So you use the transfer to capital. So once you get done with that, same thing in your review, just like we talked about, 1, 2, and 3, and then you're going to turn this project off and make it inactive. Then finally, you're going to go back to the breeding cattle SAE. The heifer is gone. So she's now a cow. When you get to the breeding project, she's going to be over on the left-hand side. You need to choose the little plus key to add her to be dam in this herd. So where you had 3 cows, now you have 4. So I've got some expenses you can put into here, managing the offspring. I've got some more new offspring for you to put in, except instead of having 3 babies born, you're going to have 4 because that new heifer is also bred and she has a calf now. I've jumped forward in the time period. That date there is wrong. These should all be 17. I'll try to fix that. But as you go through here, you're pretty much done. Now, the thing we have unique now is you're done. You're at the end of the year. Your breeding project is difficult because you've just had, at the end of 17, you just had a bunch of calves born. Also, late in 17, you bought $1,500 worth of round rolls. So by the time you get to the end of December, which is what we're looking at going forward to, you're going to have some of this hay left over, and you're going to have these 4 calves sitting there on the cow still, not weaned. So what I've done is written up a little scenario here. You need to go to Manage Ending Values of the SAE. You're in Adjusted Values. It's under the Finances area. It tells you how to do it down here. And basically, you've got breeding beef in 2017 really should have a value of $4,300, and that has to do with $1,300 worth of hay and $3,000 worth of calves that are sitting there left over. So if you add that together, it's $4,300. You need to adjust the SAE value to be updated to $4,300. AET keeps up with the SAE's value and what you've spent. So in this particular case, you've got extra dollars in spending that AET can't understand because it's got 3 years ahead of it worth of sales and income, and so overall the net value there is going to depend on what you spend and what you've made. Actually, we need to correct that because this is really what we have left. We have $1,300 in hay, and we've got $3,000 worth of calves sitting there that aren't sold yet. So when you adjust that to $4,300, then that will be more accurate. As far as reviewing the annual review, once we're done, then you've already got 14 and 15 done. You need to do a 2016, 2017. We don't have 3 cows anymore. We have 4. So you need to enter those 3 things I talked about. How did I get started? What skills? And the outcomes. One of the outcomes is we have a brand new cow that we raised from our own herd. That's how we got to 4 head. And then 2017, you've got those 4 head of cows, so probably it's important to enter the 1, 2, and 3 I talked about, but be sure to mention 4 head of unweaned calves and remaining hay left over, because that's kind of the outcome of this 2017 year. Final steps, make sure to get a couple of pictures in for each SAE, and then you got to turn in the homework. Homework is the single SAE report for the breeding cattle. I want to see those show steers, and I want to see those heifers. So you're looking at a couple of pictures each. All right, hopefully this video helps you for this week. It is about adjusted SAE value. It's about retaining animals out of your own herd and creating a new SAE that relates to that. And it's also about making sure you get your annual reviews done and then all the records that go along with that. Of course, this is also about how to use the breeding and market managers, which are important ways to keep animal records, which that's the #1 SAE across the country is animal-based projects. Entrepreneurship-wise, that's what we're looking at in this case. All right, good luck in the week. Let me know if you have any questions. And after we get done with this week, next week, we'll be going straight into how all of these records can flow into award applications. And hopefully that'll give you some insight into that process as well. We'll also be talking about test 3 before the final, which is about how to enter these records. Pretty simple, I think, exam, but we'll get more into that next week. All right, thanks. And again, let me know if you have any questions. Bye.